Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are back with another very cool review as we've got the other two figures as far as those capsule figures from Bandai. As you can see, we've got the Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus, and again they really went heavy when it comes to their first set, as we have some of the most popular species I would think of all time with the T-Rex, the Triceratops, the Spinosaurus, and the Mosasaurus. So pretty cool that again they gave us some heavy hitters straight out of the gate. But honestly, again, these look great. Like, for capsule figures, these are so much higher quality than I ever expected them to be, which is a great thing. When I had originally seen the images of them, I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, there is no way they are going to look that good when they do arrive. And honestly, obviously there's a little difference between the prototype and the final product, but they're not too far off. Like, they are actually really impressive quality as a whole. The sculpting, of course, would look as good as it does in the prototype, but the paintwork was the thing that I was kind of curious about, and I will say the paintwork is super impressive considering the size of these figures. So without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check both of these out from there. So beginning with the Spinosaurus, you can see the Spinosaurus has a pretty cool pose to it as it's clearly swimming and kind of coming down to the floor of whatever body of water it's in to grab itself a fish, as there is a fish down here. But you can see the Spino has a really nice look to it. You've got a very highly detailed appearance there to the face. You can see again that the skin texture looks pretty nice. We've also got some variation of color as you have different shades of like blues and grays there in the face for the Spino. The mouth is currently in an open position. You can see the teeth are all sculpted and painted pretty nicely. Again, there's a little bit of sloppiness in the teeth on the left-hand side. The other side that we were looking at over here looks pretty good. Obviously, you can see the mouth opening there with the tongue kind of sticking up, so you can see that in there. You've got a little bit of like a very dark purplish tone, it looks like, for the inside of the mouth. And again, like, I can't help but comment on how impressive the paintwork is for something like this, because if you look, you can almost see like a little bit of variations of browns that have been added to the teeth on top of the white that they've added. So again, it's just very impressive to me that they would put this much effort and paintwork into something like this. You can see the eyes are painted with a lighter shade of blue, given a nice black pupil. As you move back, you can see again the very cool, quite dynamic visual of the Spinosaurus kind of coming down to the bottom of the water there. The floor of the water and kind of spinning around to grab itself something to eat. We've got really nice detail there in the neck. You can see kind of like a small line of ridges moving along the back of the neck of the Spinosaurus. As you lead back, you start to see even more variation of color, as we again have like different shades of darker and lighter blues as well as grays up here. But as you lead back into the body, you pick up this really cool, very light blue. You've also got the gray, and there's also a nice dry brushing that they've applied over the grayish tones to really highlight some of the skin detail. And then as you move up here into the sail, you can see some darker blues, you can see some lighter blues, and even more gray up here, again showing up pretty sporadically through the course of the sail. We also have kind of like a small line of ridges that move up and over the top of the sail itself, which looks pretty cool. The skin texture within the sail also looks nice, and again, the paintwork on something this small is extremely impressive. As you move down, you can see the front leg here kind of swimming along. That also looks nice. You can see the feet are sculpted pretty nicely. We have a little bit more vibrant blues actually down there in the toes. You can also see webbing within the fingers there of the Spinosaurus, the nails painted with a gray. You can also see the rear leg, again, kind of kicking through the water as the Spinosaurus swims along. You've got the muscle definition here on the rear leg here in the thigh and calf shining nicely. A little bit of skin stretching off of the stomach right there as the dinosaur's kind of making a turn. And then as you lead back up here, you lead out into the tail, and you have that very cool paddle-like tail for the Spinosaurus with a nice curve to it. If you look up above, you can see the curve looks really cool. Again, the ridges continue to follow along the top of the tail, and you also have like some osteoderms here and there on the side of the tail. And again, variations of color like we've seen through the course of the figure, as we have like that lighter blue. We've also got darker blues, we've got grays, just a whole lot of variation of color added to this one. Again, very impressive considering its size. Now obviously you can see, considering it is a capsule figure, you've got a seam there for the tail. You also have a seam for the neck, and that's just inevitable when it comes to these type of figures. But like, look look at the really cool visual of this Spinosaurus as it swims along. They really knocked it out of the park, I think, as far as the Spino. This is probably my favorite of all of these capsule figures so far. You can see over here on this side, again, a little bit of difference when it comes to the pose compared to the other side, as both legs are kind of further forward and actually kind of stepping down on the ground like the Spinosaurus was swimming down, and it's now kind of using the floor of the water here to kind of turn itself around to grab itself this fish that's down here. And you can see again the turn in the neck looks nice. You have some more, actually the lighter blues even start up here and kind of stripe down through the neck, and then as you lead down you can see the rest of the body looks pretty close to the same as far as what it looked like over on the initial side. Really beautiful stuff. Then as you move down here to where our fish is sitting, you can see again some more variations of blues. You've got a pretty decently sculpted fish, and I like the way that they've kind of added like rippling there in the water. Like the water is sculpted in a way where it really shows that that fish is trying to vacate the area very quickly and just get out of there. And you can, again, see a decent amount of paintwork even to the fish itself. Not a whole lot, but they did add a little bit to it. And I apologize if it's messing with my camera. It seems like it's maybe slightly changing color as we get closer, because my camera does take issue with certain colors at times. But again, you can see how they've applied that nice dry brushing and everything here to highlight the detail. And the paintwork is, again, super nice for its size. So that is one heck of an awesome Spinosaurus, and far and away the best Bandai Spinosaurus I have ever seen. And then we've got the Mosasaurus. And the Mosasaurus has a very Dinosaurious sideshow-like look to it. Also a little bit, you know, Nanmu-like, because they have recently released a Mosasaurus in a similar pose as well. But again, the detailing on this is absolutely phenomenal. Look at that head sculpt for the Mosasaurus. It looks great, and just like with the Spino, we actually have a good bit of variations of blues and grays on this one. But one thing that is obvious here is you can see a very obvious seam where the lower jaw connects, like right there with the skin, and also here behind the lower jaw. So that seam is a little bit ugly. Definitely takes away, I think, a little bit from the figure. It's even worse actually over here on this side, but it's not the end of the world, I guess. As I've mentioned numerous times at this point, again, these are capsule figures, so you're going to have seams. Even though this isn't actually an area, I don't think that I had to put onto it. It was already on, but there is just a seam there. You can see the ear is sculpted out as well. The eye is painted with a different variation, kind of like a lighter variation of a blue. My camera would focus on it correctly, and a black pupil. The mouth of the Mosasaurus is open. We have a similar tone as far as like that darker kind of purplish tone there to the inside of the mouth. The teeth are sculpted pretty nicely, and again, painted pretty nicely. No real sloppiness or anything that I'm seeing. And then if you look at the inside of the mouth, you can see, again, the teeth are sculpted really beautifully. Man, my camera doesn't want to focus in there. Really beautifully, the inside of the mouth sports, again, that dark tone up there. You can see that extra row of teeth on the inside of the mouth are also painted. So again, just showing you that Bandai really went all out when it comes to these capsule figures. I would say these are probably the best prehistoric figures that I've ever seen from Bandai overall. The Rex and Triceratops were great, but these two here, the Mosasaurus and Spino, are honestly even better. As you move down here into the neck, you can see some tensing and musculature of the neck. You can see all sorts of skin wrinkles and stuff, again showing off the movement for our Mosasaurus. And the paintwork is absolutely fantastic. It's, you know, nice and natural looking without being too overly flashy, but you could see they didn't skimp out on paintwork anywhere. Even as you lead out into the flipper, you've got, you know, really nice, really smooth patterning and stuff throughout. And again, the paintwork, honestly, on this is better than some much larger Mosasaurus models that I've seen. Like, everything when it comes to the way that these paints have been applied is super smooth, and I love the variation of color. You can see like a darker shade that really nicely transitions to an alternate dark shade of blue as you move back, and again, there's even variation of color within that. The skin texture also looks extremely impressive as you move through the course of the Mosasaurus. You have all sorts of skin wrinkles and stuff back here behind the flipper and moving down into the underside of the Mosasaurus. And man, look at how good that detail is. That is absolutely fantastic. As you move down, though, you do have a seam here in the midsection of the Mosasaurus, because again, that is where I had to connect the figure, again being a capsule figure. And as you continue to move down, you can see we again have that nice curvature to the tail. Mosasaurus are a little bit of an iffy thing to kind of give a base to, because there's only so many ways you can really pose it and have it look interesting. So I think that's why many times you get this sort of look and pose for a Mosasaurus, because it's a way to make the model look very impressive, but also put it in kind of a dynamic pose where it doesn't look boring. So I think that's why we most often get this sort of pose for the Mosasaurus. And when you look over here at the opposing side, again, it looks just as impressive as it did on the initial side. So much really subtle, slight variation of color and insanely impressive sculpt work on this Mosasaurus as you move down, and you again see the tail. If you take a look here at the tail itself, you can see how nicely sculpted and painted even the tail is. And then as you move down under the Mosasaurus, you can see we've got all sorts of stuff here for the base. Again, tons of variation of color even added down here, and super impressive paintwork. So like, even though currently these are a little pricey on, I think they're like $20 some on Aliexpress for each one, and considering their size, again, that's a bit on the high side, I would say, but considering how unbelievably impressive these are with the sculpt and paint, I actually could say it's worth it, honestly, to, pay that price for something like this. It's still a little bit probably expensive, but like, these are really high quality for what they are. And again, the Mosasaurus, honestly, may even be actually better than the Spino. I think I like the Spino better just because it's one of the nicest looking Spinos I've seen in a while, but the Mosasaurus is seriously beyond impressive. Now, as far as the size goes for the Spino, for a length from the head to the tail, you are looking at right around 4¼ inches or 11 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point might be, I think it's the sail, so around 3 inches or about 7½ centimeters. Oh no, actually I would be wrong. It's about 3¼ inches to the top of the tail, or a little bit over 8 centimeters, heading toward 8½, but not quite there. And then for the Mosasaurus, which will definitely be the tallest of all of these, and it's almost not even in screen very well, but you are looking at about 4½ inches or 11½ centimeters. You're not going to get much of like a length or anything, or a width or anything like that for the Mosasaurus, so we'll just jump to a size comparison. And there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Bandai Capsule figures. And again, I feel like they're the most impressive when you really take a look at other figures next to them, because you can see how small they are now, which, again, they're not like super tiny, but they're definitely small. And to see how impressive they were with that closer look, and now see how small they are in comparison to all these other figures, really, I think, sets these on another level of how impressive they really are. We've also got a Mattel and Captives minifigure here next to our Bandai Capsule figures to give you another idea of the size. Obviously, they're fairly close to minifigure size range, but a little bit bigger overall. So I feel like, again, just giving you another level of appreciation for how good these are considering their size. And again, these are the type of figures where there's not really much of anything that's going to compare well with them, so we're just using randoms at this point, as we have the Safari LTDU Tyrannus and Schleich Diabloceratops stepping in here for one final comparison next to these two incredible figures. So these Bandai Capsule Spinosaurus and Mosasaurus figures are absolutely gorgeous, and this entire first wave has been beyond impressive to me, like so much better than I was expecting. When I had seen the original prototype images, I thought, yeah, we'll see. Like, they look really good, but we'll see in person if the paint apps and stuff are even close to as good as you see in the prototype images. Now, obviously, there is some difference, but they are so much higher quality than I was expecting. Like, to say I was impressed when I first pulled these out would be an understatement, and now I know there is a second wave of these coming, and I'm so much more excited now for those, seeing how incredibly impressive these are. I was really happy with the T-Rex and the Triceratops, but this Spinosaurus and Mosasaurus are honestly even better than those. And again, you've got two really cool figures, but what I like about them is the fact that they've given them really nice dynamic kind of action poses on top of everything. Again, we've got the super highly detailed sculpts, Very impressive, very smooth paint applications. But the poses are also really interesting for both. You know, the Mosasaurus is almost like a classic pose at this point, with having other Mosasaurus models in the past posed similarly. It's almost like a callback to those, but also a little bit different. Again, just like the pose is slightly different, but I think it looks really good. Definitely something that shows off how impressive of a creature the Mosasaurus is, and also just it makes a really cool display for this. You know, easily the type of model where if you have this sitting on your desk or something and somebody stumbles upon it, it's instantly going to catch their attention. And the Spino, same thing. Again, a really cool pose with it fishing, clearly heading down to the bottom of some sort of body of water and about to spin around and grab itself that fish, hopefully, if it doesn't take off too quickly. And again, just like absolute awesomeness all around with these two. Honestly, I would say with all four of these figures, they are, like I said, so much better than I was expecting them to be. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase these on Aliexpress. I'll try to find the cheapest option possible, but like I said, on these websites like that, you know, without an actual retailer or anything like that, they're a little bit iffy as far as prices go, so they're a little bit pricier. But I think there's a possibility you can buy the entire set for a decent price on AliExpress, if I remember correctly. So check the link in the description, go grab these if you'd like them, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.